In the dark silence of the night, when the stars conspired in a cosmic ballet and the moon cast its silvery light upon the earth, the deepest secrets of existence stirred. In this vast universe of mysteries, we delve into the fascinating narrative of The Universal Substance by Charles Fillmore, a tale that challenges the boundaries of the known and transports us into uncharted dimensions of the soul. Imagine a world where reality intertwines with fantasy, where the laws of the universe are merely the tip of the iceberg of ancient knowledge awaiting discovery. In this introspective journey, Charles Fillmore invites us to explore the very essence of existence, to plunge into the depths of the mind, and to uncover the universal substance that connects all things. Within the pages of this mysterious text, the boundaries between the tangible and the ethereal fade away. What secrets lie hidden in the shadows of reality? How do the invisible threads that connect every atom, every thought, every star in the firmament intertwine? Join us on this voyage of discovery, where ancient wisdom merges with futuristic vision, and truth is unveiled in enigmatic whispers. Prepare to immerse yourself in a world where the universal substance is the key that unlocks the doors to cosmic understanding. As the narrative unfolds, we witness inexplicable phenomena, synchronicities that defy all logic, and the intrinsic magic that pervades every corner of the universe. Join us on this journey where mind and soul converge, and where the universal substance reveals itself as the golden thread weaving the fabric of reality. The night is dark, but the light of truth awaits, shining like a guiding star in the firmament of consciousness. Are you ready to delve into the magic of the universal substance by Charles Fillmore? When we internalize the ideas that shape our minds and hold them with perseverance, the mind becomes the sole reality, and a powerful force emerges within us. In this way, we lay the foundations of the spiritual body, a body that transcends human actions and is eternal in the heavens. When the spiritual body takes root in our consciousness, its strength and power flow into the visible body and everything we touch in the world around us. Spiritual discernment reveals that we are now at the dawn of a new era, that the old methods of provision and support are rapidly disappearing, and new methods will emerge in the commerce to come. Humanity will no longer be enslaved by money, and daily needs will be met in ways currently considered impractical. We will serve for the joy of serving, and prosperity will flow to and through us in currents of abundance. The support and provision set in motion by love and zeal are not yet widely utilized by humanity, but those who have experienced their power of provision praise it loudly. The dynamic power of supermind within humanity has been sporadically demonstrated by men and women of all nations. It is often linked to religious rites where mystery and priestly authority prevail. The common faithful remain in the dark about the source of the superhuman power of hidden adepts and holy men. However, a great light has been seen in the discovery by physicists that the atom harbors electronic energies whose mathematical arrangement determines the character of all fundamental elements of nature. This discovery has disrupted the science based on the old mechanical atomic theory, yet it has also provided Christian metaphysicians with a new understanding of the dynamics of spiritual return. Science now postulates that the source of life is space, not matter. It asserts that the very air is alive with dynamic forces waiting to be harnessed and utilized by humanity. These invisible, omnipresent energies possess potentials far beyond our highest conceptions. What we have been taught about the glories of heaven pales in comparison to the glories of radiant rays, commonly called ether. Science tells us that we have scarcely tapped this mighty ocean of ether to produce light and electric power. Apparently, the enormous force generated by the whirl of our dynamos is but a feeble thread of a universe of energy. The invisible waves broadcasting radio programs everywhere are but a faint indication of an intelligent power permeating every germ of life, whether visible or invisible. The scientific minds of the world have been profoundly moved by these groundbreaking discoveries and have not yet found adequate language to explain their magnitude. Although many researchers have cautiously written books outlining the powerful effects likely to occur once humanity taps into easily accessible ether, none have dared to reveal the complete story. The fact is that the greatest discovery of all time is the scientific realization that all things seemingly originate from the invisible, intangible ether. This has confirmed what Jesus taught so profoundly in symbols about the riches of the kingdom of heaven. In Greek, the language in which the New Testament was transmitted to us, Jesus did not use the word heaven but heavens throughout his teaching. He was not speaking of the glories of a distant place called heaven, but revealing the properties of the heavens around us, referred to as heterospace by physicists. The Lord not only understood their dynamics but also their intelligent nature, and he said that the governing entity resides within humanity. The kingdom of God is within you. He not only described this kingdom of heaven in many parables, but made it the major focus of human existence. He not only set this goal for humanity, but also achieved it himself, thereby demonstrating that his teaching was practical and true. Scientists tell us that ether is charged with electricity, magnetism, light rays, X-rays, cosmic rays, and other dynamic radiations. It is the source of all life, light, heat, energy, gravitation, attraction, and repulsion. In short, it is the interpenetrating essence of all that exists on Earth. In other words, science attributes to ether all the attractions of heaven without directly stating it. Jesus personified this theme when he told his disciples that the kingdom of God is the one that clothes and feeds all its children. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Science asserts that the electric particles transformed into light in Earth's atmosphere are also the source of all substance and matter. Jesus said he was the substance and the bread of heaven. When will our civilization begin to truly appropriate and use this powerful ocean of substance and life, both spiritually and physically? This inexhaustible mental substance is available at all times and everywhere for those who have learned to hold it in their consciousness. The simplest, most direct, and shortest way to do this was explained when Jesus said, "Whoever does not doubt in their heart but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them." When we know that certain powerful ideas exist within the invisible mental expressions called ether and space by science, and that the mind has been given to us to grasp them, it becomes easy to put the law into action through thought, word, and action. There is a tide in the affairs of men which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune, said Shakespeare. This tide awaits us in the cosmic spaces, the paradise of God. The spiritual substance from which all visible wealth originates is never exhausted. It is by your side at all times and responds to your faith in it, as well as to your demands. It is not affected by our ignorant talk of hard times, though such talk does affect us because our thoughts and words govern our manifestations. The infallible resource is always ready to give. It needs no lesson in the matter and must give because it is its nature. Pour your living words of faith into the omnipresent substance, and you will prosper, even if all the banks in the world close their doors. Direct the great energy of your thoughts toward ideas of abundance, and you will obtain them, regardless of what the people around you say. God is substance, but if by making this statement we mean that God is matter, a temporal or conditional thing, then we should say that God has no substance. God is not limited to this form of substance that we call matter. God is the intangible essence of what humanity has formed and named matter. Matter is a mental limitation of this divine substance whose vital and inherent nature manifests in every expression of life. The substance of God can be conceived as the energy of God or the light of the Spirit, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. This aligns with the conclusions of some of the most advanced physicists. Sir James Jean stated in The Mysterious Universe that modern physics tends to resolve the material universe into waves and nothing but waves. These waves are of two types: trapped waves, which we call matter, and free waves, which we call radiation or light. The process of annihilating matter is nothing more than the release of trapped wave energy and its liberation to travel through space. Spirit is not matter, and spirit is not a person. To perceive the essence of being, we must eliminate from our minds any thought that God is in some way confined or has limitations associated with things or people with form or figure. You shall not make for yourself an image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above or that is on the earth beneath. God is substance, not matter, because matter is formed, while God is formless. The substance of God is behind matter, the foundation of all form, yet it enters no form as an end. The substance cannot be seen, touched, tasted, or smelled, yet it is more substantial than matter because it is the sole substantiality of the universe. Its nature underlies, rests beneath or behind matter as its support and ultimate reality. Job said, "The Almighty shall be thy defense, and thou shalt have plenty of silver." This refers to the universal substance, for silver and gold are manifestations of an omnipresent substance and are used as symbols of it. Undoubtedly, in your own experience, you have witnessed this omnipresent substance in the silence when it seemed to fall around you like golden snowflakes. This was the first manifestation of the overflow of universal substance into your consciousness. Substance first forms in the mind, and as it manifests, it undergoes triple activity. By taking the substance of the mind and manifesting it, we play a very important role. We do so according to our decree. Decree a thing and it shall be established for you. We are always decreeing, sometimes consciously and sometimes unconsciously, and with every thought and word, we increase or diminish the triple activity of the substance. The resulting manifestation adjusts to our thoughts. As a person thinks in their heart, so they are. There is no shortage of the air you breathe. There is plenty, all the air you need. But if you close your lungs and refuse to breathe, you won't receive it, and could suffocate for lack of it. When you recognize the presence of abundant air and open your lungs to breathe deeply, you achieve greater inspiration. This is precisely what you must do with your mind in relation to substance. There is an abundance of all things, just as there is an abundance of air. The only shortage is our own lack of appropriation. We must seek the kingdom of God and properly align ourselves with it before things are added to us in fullness. There is a kingdom of abundance in all things, and it can be found by those who seek it and are ready to abide by its laws. Jesus said it is difficult for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. This does not mean it is difficult because of their wealth, for the poor do not enter more quickly or easily. It is not money, but the thoughts people hold about money, its origin, ownership, and use, that prevent them from entering the kingdom. People's thoughts about money are like their ideas about all possessions. They believe that things originating from the earth are theirs to claim and control as individual property, that they can hoard them and depend on them while others are in need. This belief prevails among both rich and poor, and even if the two classes were to suddenly trade places, the inequalities of wealth would not be remedied. Only a fundamental change in the concept of wealth could achieve this before a fundamental social or economic change could occur. People must begin to understand their relationship with God and with each other as co-heirs of the universal resource, which is sufficient for all. They must relinquish some of their mistaken ideas about rights and learn that they cannot possess and hoard what belongs to God without experiencing the consequences of this usurpation themselves. It is not power that suffers most in this concentration of wealth, for power has not placed its faith in material things nor chained its soul to them. Those who are rich in material goods and depend on and cling to them find themselves in mental darkness. All thoughts of personal possession must be eliminated from the mind before people can realize invisible provision. They cannot selfishly own money, houses, or land because they cannot own the universal ideas these symbols represent. No man can permanently possess an idea as his own. He may possess its material symbol temporarily in the realm of phenomena, but these are the riches that moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. Men claim as valuable possessions their education, trade, skill, or intellectual talent. Ministers of the gospel value their scholarship or eloquence and take pride in these spiritual possessions. Yet even these are burdens they must relinquish before entering the kingdom of heaven. The saint who boasts of his holy goodness must shed his vanity before entering, and the one who seeks to do good and surpass others in righteousness must abandon ambition and desire before contemplating the face of the Father, who provides for all. The kingdom of causes can be likened to steam in a glass boiler. If the glass is transparent, one may look directly and see nothing. However, when a release valve is opened, the steam escapes, condenses, and becomes visible. But in this process, it also loses its power. Substance exists in a realm of ideas and is powerful when manipulated by someone familiar with its characteristics. The ignorant open the valves of the mind and allow ideas to flow into a realm with which they have no commonality. Powerful ideas of substance condense into thoughts of time and space that ignorance perceives as necessary for their realization. Thus, their power is lost and an exhausting cycle of sowing and reaping begins to meet worldly demands. It is the mindset of personal possession that limits all ideas. God's world is one of results that follow sequentially from requirements. It is in this realm that man finds his true home. For the one who has found this inner kingdom, labor ceases, divine provision occurs without arduous effort, and the desire is to have abundance. This is the second stage of demonstration for the one fully surrendered to divine guidance. Immediately, experiences easier and more joyful than those offered by the world arise when one dedicates themselves solely to following good. A more advanced stage in the same line of initiation into the mysteries of the divine awaits. Before taking this step, one must undergo deeper and more thorough mental purification. Then a higher set of faculties awakens within the body, and new avenues of expression open for the powers of the mind, not only within the body, but also in the individual's affairs. As one progresses in exercising these faculties, one may encounter certain obstructions represented by crystallized, unproductive thoughts, deposited by selfish ideas. This necessitates a further purification process, requiring renewed cleansing. If one is obedient to the Spirit and willing to follow it without complaint or protest, the path will be smooth. However, if one questions and disputes, as Job did, many obstacles will arise. The path will then be long and winding. Whoever seeks the kingdom of substance solely for the bread and fish it may provide will inevitably be disappointed. While bread and fish may be obtained, if the desire to use them for selfish ends persists in one's soul, the result will be disastrous. Many people seek the Spirit's help to heal their physical ailments without desiring the higher life. Finding that their lusts and passions are restrained by physical afflictions, they wish these afflictions removed so they may continue their carnal path. The experience of all who have dealt with the Spirit shows that it is a potent physical stimulant, restoring vitality to the body to the point of making it even more sensitive to pleasure or pain than before spiritual quickening. This hypersensitivity makes the body more susceptible to wear and tear if treated with further indulgence. Thus, those receiving spiritual treatment must be fully instructed in the truth of being. They must understand that indulging bodily passions is a sin against their success in all aspects of life, especially in the realms of finance and prosperity. Dissipation of substance leads to all kinds of deprivations. Punishment always follows indulgence of appetite and passion for mere sensation. Both sinners and saints suffer in this valley of torment. The alternative is to dedicate oneself to the Father's business, making a defined and detailed covenant with Him, laying one's desires, appetites, and passions at His feet, and agreeing to use all one's substance in the highest way. Then one will seek the kingdom, and all other things will be added unto them. We want the substance that faith has brought into our minds to be lasting and permanent, so we do not lose it when banks fail or men speak of hard times. We must have a consciousness of the permanence of the omnipresent substance in our finances. Some wealthy families manage to preserve their fortunes, while others dissipate theirs within a generation because they lack this consciousness of permanence. For many of us, financial matters oscillate between feast and famine. We need the consciousness of permanence. There is no reason why we cannot have a continuous flow of substance, both in income and expenditure. If we have received freely, we must also give freely, maintaining substance through trust in our understanding that our supply is infinite and always available in God's omnipresent Spirit. With this understanding, we can endure the slings and arrows of fate, depressions, losses, and financial failures, always seeing God as abundant substance waiting to manifest. Paul's mention of equipping oneself with the armor of God was an intent to prepare for life's challenges. The substance that has manifested in the past in our situations remains present. It is the same substance, immovable even in the appearance of material scarcity. There will always be sufficient substance for everyone. We are surrounded by it, like fish wondering where the water is while they live, move, and have their being in it. It is in the water, in the air, everywhere, in glorious abundance. Spiritual substance is firm and unchanging, enduring, not fluctuating with market reports, diminishing in hard times, or increasing in good times. It cannot be hoarded to cause a shortage in supply, nor can a higher price deplete it to meet the needs of deprivation. It remains the same constant, abundant, and freely circulating spiritual substance. It is alive, not an inanimate accumulation of bread that does not satisfy man or water that does not quench thirst. It is living and vital water, and whoever partakes of God's substance will never hunger or thirst. Substance is enduring, not a bank deposit that can be withdrawn or a fortune that can be lost. It is an infallible principle, as sure in its operation as mathematical laws. Man cannot separate himself from his supply of substance, just as life cannot separate itself from its source. As God permeates the universe and life fills every cell of the body, substance circulates freely through man, unbound by limitation or qualification. In the new era already dawning, we will have a spirit of prosperity. This principle of universal substance will be known and practiced, leaving no room for scarcity. Supply will be more balanced. There will no longer be millions of bushels of wheat stored in warehouses, while people suffer from hunger. Overproduction and underconsumption, along with other supply inequalities, will cease because the substance of God will be recognized and used by all people. Men will no longer hoard fortunes one day only to lose them the next, for they will no longer fear their neighbor's integrity, nor seek to conceal anything. This is a realizable utopia, and the answer lies with you. As soon as you individually recognize the omnipresent substance and place your faith in it, you can inspire others around you to do the same. A little leaven leavens the whole lump, and even one life bearing witness to the truth of the law of prosperity will elevate the consciousness of an entire community. Whoever you are, and whatever your immediate needs, you can demonstrate the law. If your thoughts are confused, be still and know that you are one with the substance and the law of its manifestation. Say with conviction, I am spiritual substance, strong and immovable. This will open the door of your mind to the influence of substance-filled ideas. When they come, use them freely. Do not hesitate or doubt that they will bring results. These are God-given ideas, answers to your prayers to meet your needs. They are intelligent and loving substances, eager to manifest to fulfill your requirements. God is the source of a mighty current of substance, and you are a channel for this current, a means of its expression. Blessing the substance increases its flow. If your money is scarce or your wallet seems empty, take it in your hands and bless it. See it filled with living substance, ready to manifest. When preparing your meals, bless the food with the thought of spiritual substance. When dressing, bless your clothes, and realize they are constantly imbued with God's substance. Do not focus your thoughts on yourself, your interests, gains, or losses. Instead, realize the universal nature of substance. The more aware you are of the presence of living substance, the more it will manifest, and the greater wealth there will be for all. Do not rely on anyone else's word. Test the law yourself. The realization of substance by others will not guarantee your supply. You must achieve it for yourself. Identify with the substance until it becomes yours. This will transform your finances, destroy your fears, end your worries, and soon you will begin to rejoice in the ever-present generosity of God. Simply remain still and turn to the great source. Look with the eye of faith, seeing the whole world filled with substance. Envision it as flakes of gold and silver snowing down around you. Declare with confidence, Jesus Christ is now here, lifting me into his omnipresent consciousness and the divine providing substance, and my prosperity is assured. I have unlimited faith in the omnipresent spiritual substance, which grows and multiplies with my words. The spiritual mind is the omnipresent guiding principle of prosperity. Everything that appears in the universe originates in the mind. The mind develops ideas, and ideas express themselves through thoughts and words. By understanding that ideas have a permanent existence and that thoughts and words evolve, we see the futility of any attempt at reform that does not take them into account. This is why legislation and external action standards are as weak and fleeting as the reforms themselves. Ideas generate thought currents just as fire under a boiler generates steam. Ideas are the most crucial factor in any act and must be given priority in our focus. If we wish to achieve lasting results, men formulate thoughts, and these thoughts move the world. Ideas are centers of consciousness with positive and negative poles, generating all kinds of thoughts. Thus, a man's body, health, intelligence, finances, and everything around him derive from the ideas he focuses on. Throughout human existence, There has never been a desire that could not find satisfaction in the divine designs of providence. If this were not true, the universe would be weak at its most vital point. Desire is the soul's impulse, building from within outward and carrying with it its realization as a necessary corollary. All is spirit. Therefore, the things that appear must be expressions of spirit. Thus, spirit is reality and also appears as phenomena, visible and invisible. To claim that spirit is everything while denying the existence of visible manifestations is to affirm only half the truth. An idea can be formulated as a proposition, satisfying the desire to experimentally confirm its validity. Processes external to the proposition may be necessary for its formulation, but are not retained once the proposition is resolved. Similarly, intermediate steps in solving a problem may be changed repeatedly, yet the desired outcome is ultimately achieved. This principle applies to the simplest math problem as well as to the creation of the universe. As above, so below. Many fail in demonstration because they deny appearances simply because they do not fully express perfection. To judge a problem prematurely by erasing all progress because the answer is not immediately evident is folly. Equally, denying visible conditions while affirming only the ideal creates division within oneself. Thought inevitably leads to expression, and you are always thinking. Recognizing and addressing both the visible and invisible aspects is essential for balanced understanding. We often question why we understand only the truths we do, or why absolute comprehension is necessary when God is omniscient and present. Understanding is a vital part of your identity. The declaration, "I am man," represents a focal point in God's consciousness and expresses Him. Therefore, you must understand the processes leading to this expression. The infinite mind is here with all its ideas as resources for man, and what we become is the result of our efforts to accumulate in our consciousness all the attributes of the infinite mind. We have learned that we can accumulate ideas of power, strength, life, love, and abundance. How can we use these ideas and bring them to outward expression without understanding where this understanding comes from, if not from the source of all ideas, the Spirit? But if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it will be given to him. In following the principles of mathematics, we use rules. There is an addition rule we must observe when adding, and other rules that must be followed when subtracting or multiplying. The ideas of the Divine Spirit can only be expressed when we follow the rules or laws of Spirit, and these rules require understanding. If we are to follow them intelligently and achieve results, man receives all power and authority over all the ideas of the infinite Spirit, and the idea of wisdom is one of them. The idea of love is closely associated with the idea of wisdom in the Divine Spirit. These ideas are the positive and negative poles of the creative principle created by man and woman. The ideas of the Divine Spirit express themselves through the conjunction of wisdom and love. God has ordained that these two ideas be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth with thoughts in expression. We have access to the divine kingdom, from which all thoughts are projected into the world. We constantly take ideas from the spiritual realm and transform them into our own conception of the things we desire. Sometimes the final product does not satisfy us, and this happens because we have separated the idea from its true parents, wisdom and love, and allowed it to mature in an atmosphere of error and ignorance. In the realm of money or wealth, we have taken the idea of pure substance from the spiritual realm and then forgotten the idea of substance, trying to develop it in a material atmosphere of thought. It was a wonderful idea, but when we separated it from the wisdom and love of its spiritual parents, it became an unruly and disappointing child. Even without love and understanding of substance, you can accumulate gold and silver, but your treasure will neither be stable nor permanent. It will fluctuate and bring you worry and pain. There are many people who do not understand the value of a dollar, for whom money comes and goes, who are rich today and poor tomorrow. They do not understand substance, which is the underlying reality of all wealth. To have an adequate supply at all times, a constant flow that never becomes a burden but is always sufficient to meet all demands, we must unite with the spirit that knows how to manage ideas as substance. Men hold the idea that material substance is limited and engage in competition to accumulate others' money. The Divine Spirit holds the idea of substance as unlimited and present everywhere, equally available to all. Since man's work is to express the ideas of substance in material form, we must discover how to link the ideas of substance to the ideas of material expression, just as we align the ideas of man's mind with the ideas of the divine spirit. This is achieved through faith and prayer. That part of the Lord's Prayer which says, "Give us this day our daily bread," can be better translated as, "Give us today the substance of tomorrow's bread." Through prayer, we accumulate in our minds ideas of God as the substance of our supply and support. There is no lack of this substance in the infinite spirit, no matter how much is needed. What God gives is always abundant. God does not give us material things but the substance of spirit, not money but ideas, ideas that set spiritual forces in motion so that things begin to come to us. By applying the law, you can solve your financial problems. Unconsciously, people often think about their problems just before falling asleep and receive a solution in their dreams or immediately upon waking. This happens because their minds were fully immersed in the intellectual world, preventing them from connecting with the quiet inner realm where ideas are silently generated. When the conscious mind becomes still and we connect with the superconscious, it begins to show us how our problems will be resolved or what steps we must take to achieve the desired prosperity. This is the law of spirit. The principle is within each of us, but we must be spiritually awakened in life and understanding before we can successfully work with it. However, we must not neglect the understanding of the natural man. The mind within us that reasons and considers the physical side of things also has the capacity to look inward. This is the door through which divine ideas must enter. Jesus, the Son of Man, referred to himself as the door and the way. It is the divine purpose that all expression or demonstration comes through this mental door of man. Above all, there are the ideas that exist in the original state of being, and this is the truth we must become aware of. We must be conscious of the source of our substance. Then we can diminish or increase the appearance of our supply or finances, for their appearance depends entirely on our understanding and management of the ideas of substance. The time is approaching when we will not have to labor for things, for our physical needs in the form of food and clothing will come to us through the accumulation of correct ideas in our minds. We will begin to understand that clothing represents an idea of substance, food another, and that everything manifested represents an idea. In Genesis chapter 2, this living substance is called the dust of the ground in Hebrew, and Adam was formed from it. We discover that the elemental substance is within our bodies. The kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of God, is within man. It is a kingdom of substance and spirit. It flows through our minds, and our minds penetrate and permeate our bodies. Its substance infuses every atom of our being. Whether you pay attention to this or continue seeking supply from external sources, meditate and pray to understand this omnipresent substance. If you do, it will come and demonstrate prosperity to you. When this happens, be assured that nothing can take away this true prosperity. It is a law that does not fail and cannot fail when properly implemented. This law of prosperity has been tested time and again. All men who have prospered have used the law, for there is no other way. Perhaps they were unaware of following defined spiritual methods, but somehow they put the law into action and reaped the benefits of its unfailing operation. Others have had to struggle to achieve the same things. Remember that Elijah had to keep praying and affirming for a long time before he demonstrated rain. He sent his servant the first time, and there was no sign of a cloud. He prayed and sent him again and again with the same result. But finally, after repeated efforts, the servant reported seeing a small cloud. Then Elijah told him to prepare for rain, and it came. This example shows the continuity of effort that is sometimes necessary if your prosperity does not manifest as soon as you pray and affirm that God is your substance, supply, and support. Do not give up. Demonstrate your faith by continuing to work, for you have many scriptures to support you. Jesus taught this principle from the beginning to the end of his ministry and demonstrated it repeatedly. Many others have done the same in his name. Jesus directed his disciples' attention to the inner kingdom of spirit, the substance of the kingdom of God. He pointed out that the lilies of the field were beautifully clothed, even more so than Solomon in all his glory. We do not have to laboriously work externally to achieve what the lilies quietly and beautifully accomplish. Most of us rush to try to solve our problems by ourselves and in our own way. focusing on the idea, vision, or material thing we are seeking. Instead, we should spend more time in silent meditation, and like the lilies of the field, simply be patient and grow into our manifestations. We must always remember that these ideas of substance with which we work are eternal ideas that have always existed and always will. They are the same ideas that first formed this planet and now sustain it. A great German astronomer spent most of his life with a desire to know more about the stars. One night, quite suddenly and strangely, since he had thought very little about the spiritual aspect of things, he uttered a prayer of thanksgiving for the perfect order and harmony of the heavens. His prayer was, "O God, I think thy thoughts." At that moment, his soul entered into contact and union with the infinite spirit. But although this contact seemed to occur suddenly, it was the result of a long study and preparation of his mind and thought. Jesus expressed the same union with God at the moment of his supreme miracle, the resurrection of Lazarus. His words were, "Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I know that thou hearest me always." This shows us another aspect of the law of prosperity. We pave the way for great manifestations by recognizing the presence and praising it, thanking the Father for spiritual vivification. Let us revive our life by affirming that we are alive with the presence of Spirit, our intelligence by affirming our unity with divine intelligence, and revive the resident substance by recognizing and claiming it as ours. We should meditate on this understanding and sincerely thank the God of this omnipresent realm of ideas, for we can think his thoughts after him. We can thank the Father that his thoughts are our thoughts, and that our natural mind is illuminated by Spirit. We can illuminate our minds at any time by affirming this thought. I thank thee, Father, for conforming thy thoughts to thine own nature, and for enlightening my understanding by Spirit. Spiritual thoughts are infinite in their potential. Each is measured by the life, intelligence, and substance with which it is expressed. Thought is brought into expression and activity by the word. Each word is a thought in action, and when spoken, it emerges as a vibrational force recorded in the all-encompassing substance. The most powerful vibration is established by pronouncing the name of Jesus. This is the name that reigns far above all rule and authority, the name above every name, holding all power in heaven and on earth. It is the name with the power to shape the universal substance. It is one with the Father-Mother substance, and when spoken it sets forces into motion that produce results. Whatever you ask the Father in my name, he will give you. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. There could be no simpler, easier, or more unconditional way to demonstrate provision. Until now you have asked nothing in my name. Ask, and you will receive, that your joy may be full. Jesus' words carried enormous power because of his consciousness of God, elevating the ideal of God far above what had previously been conceived. These ideas transcended the plane of thought of the people so profoundly that even some of Jesus' disciples did not accept them and stopped walking with him. Until quite recently, most people have not grasped the lesson of the power of the spoken word expressing spiritual ideas. Jesus was never taken literally, or men would have tried to overcome death by fulfilling his words. Few have embraced his words with total faith, not merely believing them but saturating their minds with them, until they become flesh of their flesh and bone of their bones, incarnating in their own bodies as Jesus intended. The secret of demonstration is to conceive what is true in being and carry that concept in thought, word, and action. If I can conceive a truth, there must be a way to make it evident. If I can conceive an inexhaustible supply in the omnipresent ethers, then there must be a way to manifest that supply. Once your mind accepts this as an axiomatic truth, you have reached the point where the question of processes begins to be considered. No one fully sees the steps they must take to reach a determined end. They may see in general that they must proceed from one point to another, but not all the details are defined unless they have already traveled the same terrain. Similarly, in demonstrating spiritual powers as they express through man, we must be ready to follow the guidance of someone who has demonstrated their understanding of the law through their demonstrations. We all intuitively know that there is something wrong in a world where poverty reigns, and we would not create a world where poverty exists. Deprivation of any kind is not possible in the entire universe of God. Therefore, when poverty appears somewhere, it is our duty to deny it. Pain and suffering accompany poverty, and we wish for all of this to disappear. This desire is a clue pointing the way to their disappearance. As the consciousness of the kingdom of heaven, with its abundant life and substance, becomes more common among people, these negative conditions will disappear from apparent existence. Jesus said that all things will be added to those who seek the kingdom of heaven. We do not have to wait until we fully enter the kingdom or achieve a complete understanding of spirit for prosperity to begin manifesting. But we must seek and direct our attention in that direction, and then things will start to be added to us. Thousands of people are testing this law in this age by accepting the promise of Scripture and trusting that God will meet all their needs. At the beginning of their search, they may have little to encourage them to believe they will be provided for or helped in a specific area. Yet as they follow the command to seek and act in faith as though they are receiving, new ways of earning a living gradually open up to them. Sometimes unfamiliar paths appear, but they discover enjoyable experiences and are encouraged to continue seeking the kingdom of God and rejoicing in its increasing generosity. Many of these individuals wisely use their single talent. They may not yet have reached the holy place of the inner sanctuary, but they are drawing closer to it. This is the step we must all take. Begin seeking the kingdom of God's substance, trust in the promise, and see results in the mental currents that are energized around us. You may not be able to pinpoint when success began or which words of loyalty to the Father first had an effect, but over the weeks or months, you will notice many changes in your mind, body, and affairs. You will find your ideas greatly expanded and your small, limited world transformed into a vast one. Your mind will be more alert, and you will see clearly where doubt once clouded your vision, because you have begun thinking in terms of realities rather than appearances. A consciousness of an omnipotent hand guiding all your affairs will be established in trust and security. There will be an extension of well-being in your body and environment. Within you, there will be a decrease or total absence of prejudice and fault-finding. You will become more forgiving and generous, judging others less harshly. They will perceive the change in you and appreciate you more, demonstrating it in many ways. Things will come to you, they will be added according to the promise. This is true not only for your own affairs, but also for those around you. They will also become more prosperous and happy. They may not connect their improvement to you or their thoughts, but this does not affect the truth of it. All causes are essentially mental, and anyone in daily contact with a higher order of thought must absorb some of it. Ideas are contagious, and no one can live in an atmosphere of true thought, where high ideas are upheld without being influenced to some degree. Do not expect miracles to happen to you, but trust that the law to which you have aligned yourself will solve your problem through the latent possibilities within and around you. Above all, be yourself. Let the God within you express through you into the outer world. You are God's, and all of you are children of the Most High. The idea of God encompasses a multitude of creative forces. In this case, you are working to bring prosperity to your affairs, so you must fill your mind with images and thoughts of a Father who provides for all. The ancient Hebrews understood this and had 7 sacred names for Yahweh, each representing a specific idea of God. When they wanted to focus on the aspect of substance, they used the name Jehovah Jireh, meaning the Lord will provide. The mighty one whose presence and power provide regardless of contrary circumstances. To accelerate the awareness of God's presence, the Hebrews used the name Jehovah Shammah, meaning the Lord is there. Be conscious that the Lord is present, just as the creative spirit pulses in the ether as a living productivity. Fill your mind with affirmations that express abundance. No single affirmation will shift someone from poverty to abundance, but all affirmations bearing ideas of wealth will guide them toward a consciousness aligned with the law. Deny lack any place or reality in your thoughts or affairs, and affirm abundance as the only appearance. Bless what you have, no matter how little, and insist that it continually increases. Daily focus your mind on spirit and its attributes, revealing that the elemental forces creating all material things are here in the ether, awaiting your recognition and appropriation. You do not need to know all the details of the scientific law to demonstrate prosperity. Enter the silence daily at a set time and focus on the substance of spirit prepared for you since the foundation of the world. This will open a current of thought that brings prosperity into your affairs. A good thought to maintain during this meditation is, invisible substance is plastic to my abundant thought, and I am rich in spirit and manifestation. Faith in the invisible substance is the key to demonstration. In this lesson, we explore the subject of faith, especially as it relates to demonstrating prosperity. As with all studies, we must begin with the one Spirit. God had faith when he conceived man and the universe, and through his faith, he brought all things into existence. Man, being like God, must also base his creations on faith as the sole foundation. This is our starting point for building a consciousness of prosperity and making our world what we want it to be. We all have faith, for without it we are nothing. The question is, how can we apply it to the affairs of our lives? Jesus gave us the best understanding of faith when he described Peter as a rock, and declared that his church, the assembly of the called, must be built on that rock or faith as its sure foundation. In this sense, faith represents the substance, the underlying and fundamental principle of all manifestation. Faith is the certainty of what we hope for, the conviction of what we do not see. It is the ability to possess a reality that cannot be seen, touched, or comprehended by any external senses. Faith is when we are fully aware of what is unseen and certain of what is not yet manifested. In other words, faith is that awareness within us of the reality of invisible substance and the attributes of spirit by which we cling to it. We must realize that spirit makes things real. A mere thought or a lightly considered idea, which we sometimes entertain without much reflection, are eternal realities from which we build our lives and our world. Faith is the mind's power of perception, combined with the ability to give form to substance. You hear about a proposition that appeals to you, and you say, "I have faith in this proposition." You are told about a man whose character seems reliable, and you say, "I have faith in this man." To have faith means that certain characteristics of people or things attract you, and these immediately begin a constructive work in your mind. What is this work? It is the process of making the proposition or the man real to your consciousness. The character and attributes of these things in your mind become substantial to you because of your faith. The work of faith is to take abstract ideas and give them a definite form in substance. Ideas are abstract and formless to us until they become substance. The substance of faith accomplishes a vital work in the cultivation of the soul. Once we discern this law of soul building through faith, we find the Hebrew Scriptures filled with illustrations of it. The first chapter of the Gospel of Luke tells us how an angel informed Elizabeth and Zechariah that they would have a son named John. Zechariah was burning incense on the altar while performing his priestly duties. This symbolizes that when the mind turns toward spirit, even blindly, and seeks spiritual things, it becomes spiritualized. Burning incense represents spiritualization. Zechariah represents the perceptive qualities of the soul, and Elizabeth represents the receptive qualities. When these two work together in prayer, meditation, and aspiration, the soul opens itself to higher thoughts or angels, which bring the promise of a new and elevated state of consciousness. Zechariah doubted the promise of having a son because his wife was beyond childbearing age, and because of his doubts, he became mute. This signifies that when we perceive spiritual truth but doubt it, we delay its outward expression. It cannot manifest through us because of our doubt. All development then rests on the soul. Elizabeth hid herself for 5 months, but when the soul begins to feel the presence of the new self or the new state of consciousness, we return to the expression of faith, and Zechariah's speech is restored. The same principle applies to the birth of Jesus. First, a promise was made to Mary, and Joseph was assured that the child was conceived by the Holy Spirit. This represents an even higher stage in the work of faith. The birth of John the Baptist signifies the intellectual perception of truth. The intellect first grasps the truth. The next stage is the appearance of substance and life in the subconscious. When we fully surrender to spirit, we may do things without fully understanding why. Even if we do not know the law or cannot explain faith to the outer consciousness, it continues its perfect work and ultimately brings about the demonstration. Do not fear the power that resolves things in the unseen. When you have a strong perception of something your inner mind tells you is true and good, act accordingly, and your demonstration will come. This is how living faith works. It is the law of your creative word. To faith, we can also add understanding. We invoke our spiritual faculties from our subconscious. When Jesus performed some of his most remarkable works, he had Peter, James, and John with him. Peter represents faith, James represents wisdom or judgment, and John represents love. These three faculties, when expressed together in the mind, accomplish what appear to be miracles. If you have invoked faith in spiritual matters, have faith in God, and have cultivated your unity with Spirit, then you are using spiritual judgment and performing your work in love. You have become a master in Israel, having understood the law by which we gain or lose in the use of invisible substance. We must use discernment or judgment. There is an ever-present intelligence that we can unite with and make our own. It belongs to us and is our birthright, both to know and to use. Some metaphysicians mistakenly believe that they must go through difficult experiences to appreciate the best things in life. They think poverty is a blessing because it teaches people to value abundance when they attain it. They say it is God's will to have hard times and good times, periods of famine and feasting. This is not logically true when God is considered as a principle. If you think of God as someone who arbitrarily gives or takes away by exercising personal will, you might arrive at such a conclusion. But God is immutable. If He gives at one moment, He will continue to give eternally. His nature is to give, and this nature is eternally the same. When you speak of hard times, famine or lack, you are referring to something that does not exist in the mind of God. You are not acknowledging God in all your ways, but are instead acknowledging error and affirming that the world draws its source from external things. You must turn inward and enter this awareness. In spirit, there is abundance. Often we wonder how Jesus could multiply 5 loaves and 2 fish to feed 5,000 people. He did it through a profound understanding of this law. The 5 loaves represent the application of the 5 senses to divine substance, and the 2 fish represent the leaven or the multiplying power added to the substance. The source of increase teaches us that if the leaven of a single loaf were allowed to expand, it could fill a space larger than this planet. This demonstrates that there is no limit to the power of increase in elemental substance. It is up to us to use it as Jesus did. It was not a miracle, but something we all possess as an unawakened ability that we can learn to develop and use as Jesus did. Jesus entered into silence, prayed, and blessed the substance He had in His hand. If we want to multiply and increase the power, substance, and life within us and in our affairs, we must remain very calm and realize that our resource is Spirit, which is God, present here in its fullness. We must connect with it in faith. Then we will find it welling up from within us. Some of you have undoubtedly experienced this, but if you let it overflow without understanding it, you will gain no benefit from it. Here is the key to the life and substance you feel when you sit in silence. You must begin to speak these words with power and authority. When there is a global belief in financial depression, lack of circulation or stagnation, things do not go as we hope. Then we develop fear and a belief in a lack of money flow. But when we know the law, we do not fall into such thinking. At any given time, many people are earning money by using this law and seizing opportunities. We must bless everything we have, because we can increase and multiply what we possess by speaking with words. Jesus said that His words were spirit and life. Have you ever considered that your words are charged with a great force of spiritual life? Well, it's true. Therefore, be mindful of your words, for man will be accountable for even the smallest word. If you speak negatively, your finances will diminish. But if you speak with gratitude and greatness, you will prosper. If we could release the energy of the atoms scientists talk about, we could provide the world with power. This power is within each of us. We can start by releasing the small ideas we have and letting them fill the world with thoughts of abundance. We must realize that all power is given to us in heaven and on earth. Jesus told His apostles that they would receive power when the Holy Spirit came upon them. They were told to ascend to the upper room at the top of their heads, where spiritual forces begin to form new ideas. After entering spiritual consciousness and experiencing rebirth, speak the word with authority and power, focusing your attention on the center of the throat. Speak the words aloud and then sink into silence on the opposite side, as Jesus often did in Galilee, to rest before speaking again in silence. You can send this vibrational energy of spirit to break the inertia caused by thoughts of fear and lack, open paths, and create new ways for demonstrating your good. To develop these undeveloped spiritual qualities, we must believe in them. For whoever comes to God must believe that He exists. Lord, protect us from unbelief, from relying on things we see, from judging by appearances. You can evoke 1,000 imaginary things in your mind that will seem real to you. This shows that the mind creates by forming things according to its ideas. The world is awakening wonderfully to the truth about the creative power of the mind. Everywhere, psychology or the cultivation of the soul is being studied. Imagination builds things from the one substance. If you combine faith with it in its creative work, the things you create will be as real as those made by God. Whatever you do in the Spirit and truly put your faith in will become something substantial. Therefore, you must constantly guard what you believe so you can manifest what is for your good. If you place your faith in external things, you build shadows without substance, forms that pass away and leave nothing behind. If you want to demonstrate true prosperity, you must turn away from things, and as Jesus told his disciples, have faith in God. Faith in nothing else but God, faith only in the one thought. When your faith is centered there, you are building for eternity. Spirit and the ideas of Spirit will never pass away. God will never pass away. The truth that is God will never pass away, and divine substance will never pass away. Build on divine constancy, cultivate faith in realities, and store up treasures in heaven. The foundation of all work is an idea. Faith is a quality of the mind that makes the idea stand out as real, not only to ourselves, but to others. When others have faith in what you do, make, or sell, they see it as real and valuable. Then your success and prosperity are assured. You can only make visible that in which you truly have great faith. If you say and believe, I have faith in the substance of God working through me to increase and attract abundance into my world, your faith will begin to work powerfully in the substance of Spirit and make you prosperous. Everything you place into substance with faith will work manifestly in your world. We have seen it done and have tested the law too many times to harbor any doubt. The Scriptures are full of illustrations of this activity, manifesting things through faith in substance. The characters we read about in Scripture represent ideas working within human souls. If we think they existed only as people thousands of years ago, we weaken our faith instead of letting it work for us now and in our daily affairs. To demonstrate as Jesus did, we must place our faith in the one substance and say, I have faith in God. Prosperity is demonstrated. Understanding the law of prosperity and having faith in it is what will ensure your success. Do not appeal to the sympathy of others by trying to get them to do something for you or give you something. Faithfulness and seriousness in applying the law of prosperity will ensure your success. Every good and perfect gift comes from above, descending from the Father of lights, in whom there is no variation or shadow of change. If you acknowledge him in all your ways, he will direct your paths. Let us all know that we are now in the very presence of the creative Spirit, the Spirit that made the universe and all it contains. The will is here and working now as much as it ever has or will. When we become fully conscious of this, we immensely increase the activity of Spirit within us. You must realize that God is Spirit, and that Spirit is very real and powerful, by far the most substantial substance in the entire universe. It may be difficult for those attached to material things to realize that there is a truly real, invisible life and substance, far more substantial and real than the material. Scientists tell us that invisible forces have millions of times more power than anything material. When we read claims about some of the recent scientific discoveries, claims everyone accepts and talks about, we are truly amazed. Such claims made by religious figures would be labeled absurd and unbelievable. However, religion has made these same claims for thousands of years, albeit in different terms. Now, science is aiding religion by proving and comparing substance and matter in terms of their relative reality. A scientific writer says that matter is nothing more than a crack in universal substance. It is this universal substance that man deals with all the time through his spiritual mind and thoughts. He deals with this wonderful spiritual substance, which takes form in his consciousness according to his thoughts about it. Therefore, we must maintain thoughts of divine wisdom and understanding so that we can rightly use these creative mental powers. We use them all the time, whether consciously or unconsciously, and we must use them to our advantage and blessing. Every time you say, I'm a little short on money, or I don't have as much money as I need, you place a limit on substance in your own consciousness. This is not wisdom. You want a greater supply, not a limited supply of substance. Therefore, it is important to monitor your thoughts so that the greater supply can flow into your affairs through your mind. Tell yourself, I am the offspring of God, and I must think as God thinks. Therefore, I cannot think of lack or limitation. It is impossible for there to be such a thing as lack in this universal thought that fills everything. There is no shortage of anything anywhere in reality. The only shortage is the fear of it in the human mind. We do not need to overcome any actual shortage. We must overcome the fear of it. This fear of lack has driven people to speculate, hoard resources, and stockpile substances. This has caused others to experience even more scarcity, making the situation worse and worse. Thus, we have come to believe that we must amass material symbols of substance for a possible future lack. We have tested this system and found that it always fails us. We must learn to understand the divine law of supply and the original plan, which ensures that we will always have our daily bread. That is all we truly want, just the amount of things we need for today, along with absolute assurance that the supply for tomorrow's needs will be there when tomorrow comes. This security cannot be found in hoarding or stockpiling, as experience has taught us. It can only be felt when we have faith and understand the truth about the omnipresent substance, which is always available. Anything less than today's needs is insufficient, and anything more than what we need today is merely a burden. Let us begin with the fundamental proposition that there is always something for you and for me, and that this substance is here all the time, providing us with everything we need according to our thoughts and words. When you begin your day, take a moment and declare, "Today I put God before me to guide, protect, and prosper me." You might also say, "The Spirit of the Lord goes before me today and makes my path prosperous and successful." Make this your proclamation for the day. Decree it to be so, and the Lord will fulfill it throughout the day. If a thought of lack or limitation disturbs you even for a moment, immediately counter it with the affirmation, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." When your mind returns to the subject of prosperity, realize that your prosperity comes from God. It comes with you from God, from your connection with the Spirit of God in your silence. Your prosperity is with you wherever you are. It may seem as if supply comes through external channels, but your true success depends on your inner state and your realization of prosperity. Be grateful for the supply that comes through external channels, but do not limit God's giving to a single channel. Look to Him and you will prosper. Here are some prayers for prosperity. I'm always provided for because I trust in you as my omnipresent abundance. I have faith in you as my all-powerful resource, and trust that you will sustain me in my prosperity. I trust in the universal spirit of prosperity in all my affairs. I turn to God because I believe in His existence and in His reward for those who seek Him. Man is the entry and exit point for the divine spirit. The possessions of the Father are not in facts and goods, but in the divine possibilities implanted in the mind and soul of every person. Through the human mind, ideas are born, and through the human soul, the wealth of God's love is expressed. It is rightly said that the mind is the crucible, where the ideal becomes reality. This process of transformation is the spiritual chemistry we must learn before we are ready to work intelligently in the great laboratory of the Father's substance. There is no shortage of material to form what we want, and we can all turn to it according to our purpose. The wealth of consciousness will express itself in the wealth of manifestation. He who knows the principle has a certain inner security given by understanding the Spirit of God. Our affirmations aim to establish in our consciousness a profound understanding of the principles upon which all life and existence depend. Our religion is based on a science in which ideas are linked to principles and to other ideas in a universal thought that operates according to mental laws. This is not a new religion or a religious trend, but points to the real and true aspects of any religion. If the principle is known, one can immediately discern whether a religion is based on facts or on human-made ideas to demonstrate the principle. We must continue to ground ourselves in certain affirmations of the law. The more often you present your mind with a logical and true proposition, the stronger this inner sense of security will become for you. The mind of man is built on truth, and the clearer your understanding of truth, the more substantial your mind becomes. There is a definite and intimate relationship between what we call truth and the universal substance of being. When the mind is called into action by your thought about it, It grasps the substance through the law of attraction or the sympathy of thought. Thus, the more you know God, the more successful you will be in managing your body and all your affairs. The more you know God, the healthier you will be. And naturally, the healthier you are, the happier, more beautiful, and better you will be in every way. Nada! If you know how to take possession of the universal substance and shape it according to your vision, you will prosper. Mental substance enters into every detail of your daily life, whether or not you recognize this truth. However, to establish yourself with certainty in the possession and use of life, love, intelligence, and universal substance, you must first become aware of it by mentally visualizing the truth. All true action is governed by law. Nothing happens by chance. There are no miracles, no luck. Every event is the result of a cause and can be explained by the law of cause and effect. This teaching appeals to the innate logic of our minds, but sometimes we doubt it when we see things happen without an apparent cause. These seemingly miraculous events are governed by laws we have not yet learned and result from causes we have not been able to comprehend. Man manifests not according to the law, but according to his knowledge of the law. Therefore, we must strive to learn more. God is law and is unchanging. If we want to bring forth perfect creation, we must align with the law and unfold in our mind, body, and affairs, just as a flower unfolds through the principle of innate life, intelligence, and substance. The United States Congress establishes laws that govern the actions of all American citizens. Those who obey the laws are rewarded by the protection of the law. Congress does not enforce the laws. That is left to the executive branch of government. The same is true of the universal law. God has ordained the law, but does not force us to obey it. We have free will, and how we choose to act is entirely up to us. When we know the law and work within it, we are rewarded by its protection and can use it for our benefit. If we break the universal law, we face limitations, just as a convicted offender is confined in a cell or prison. The Holy Spirit is the executive agent through which the Divine Spirit enforces its laws. From this consideration, it follows that God has granted the power of the Divine Spirit to every person. You use your organism, your body, your mind, and your soul to fulfill a law that God has established as a guide for all creation. If you fulfill this mission rightly, you cannot help but achieve just results. If you do not live according to the law, well, that is your responsibility. God cannot prevent you from failing to follow the law, and with it demonstrate health, happiness, prosperity, and all good things. Blackstone said that the law is a rule of action. Therefore, with the law of God, if you follow the rules of action, you will reveal the truth to yourself and have everything that God has prepared for you since the foundation of the world. What are the rules of the law? First of all, God is good, and all his creations are good. When you have this firmly anchored in your mind, you are bound to demonstrate good, and nothing but good can enter your world. If you allow the thought that evil exists and that you are as prone to evil as to good, then you may have conditions that correspond to your idea of evil. But remember, evil and all its conditions are not recognized by the divine mind. If you think evil is a reality or has power over you, change your thinking immediately and begin building good brain cells that have never heard of anything other than good. Repeat the following. I am a child of absolute good. God is good, and I am good. Everything that comes into my life is good, and I will have only good. Establish this consciousness, and only good will come to you, and your life will be a perpetual joy. I cannot explain why this is true, but I have total certainty of its truth, and I invite you to verify it for yourself, for personal satisfaction. If you start now with the idea of universal and eternal goodness in your mind, speak only of good, and see with the eye of the Spirit everything and everyone as good, then you will soon demonstrate all kinds of good. Good thoughts will become a habit, and good will manifest before you. You will see it everywhere, and people will say of you, I know this man is good and true, I trust him, and he makes me feel the innate goodness of all men. This is how the one Spirit expresses itself through man. This is the law. Those who live according to the law will get the desired results, and those who do not will get the opposite. The law also applies to our manifestations of prosperity. We cannot be very happy if we are poor, and no one needs to be poor. Being poor is a sin. You might ask if Jesus ever cited an example where poverty was a sin. Well, yes, and you will find it in the story of the prodigal son. It is often used as a text to preach to moral sinners, but a close study of it shows that Jesus taught the sin of lack and how to gain abundance. It is a wonderful lesson on prosperity. The prodigal son took his inheritance and went to a far country where he squandered it on a lavish life and ended up in poverty. When he returned to his father, he was not accused of immorality as one might think. On the contrary, his father said, "Quickly bring the best robe and put it on him." This was a lesson on the right clothing, for it is a sin to dress poorly. This may seem like a rather mercantile view of Jesus' teaching to some, but we must be honest and interpret it as he gave it, not as we think it should be. The next thing the father did was put a gold ring on the prodigal's finger, another sign of prosperity. The Father's desire for us is unlimited good, not just the means of a life of scarcity. The ring symbolizes the unlimited, that which has no end. It also represents omnipresence and omnipotence in the manifested world. When the Father gave the ring to his Son, he gave him the key to all vital activity. It was the symbol of his condition as a son and heir to all that the Father had. All that is mine is yours. The Father gives us everything he has. He is omnipotence, omniscience, all love, and all substance. When we return to the awareness of his house of abundance, put on shoes, was the next order from the Father to the servants. The feet represent the part of our understanding that comes into contact with earthly conditions. In the head or upper room, we have the understanding that connects with spiritual conditions. But when we read in the Scriptures about feet, we can know that it refers to our understanding of the material world. The next thing the Father did for his returning son was to proclaim a feast for him. This is not how we treat moral sinners. We decree a punishment for them, sending them to prison. But the Father gives a banquet to those who come to him for provisions. He does not just give a necessary ration, but serves the fatted calf, universal substance, and life in fullness and richness. The parable is a great lesson on prosperity, for it shows us that people who waste their substance on pleasures are sinful and end up falling into the consciousness of lack. It also shows that they can return to legality and prosperity if they return to the Spirit of the Father. When the Bible offers so many lessons for immoral delinquents, there is no need to distort the meaning of this parable for that purpose. It is clearly a lesson on the cause of lack and need. Jesus expressly states that the young man squandered his wealth in a far country, a place where the divine law of abundance was not respected. There is a very close relationship between reckless living and need. People who waste their substance on sensations become physically and economically needy. If we want to make correct use of divine substance and divine law, we must return to the consciousness of the Father and preserve our bodily substance. Then health and prosperity will naturally manifest. If we are not skilled or uncertain in using the one divine substance, we will be sure of nothing. Substance is something very important in our world, and in fact, it is the very foundation of it. Therefore, we must be sure in our understanding of it and use it in accordance with God's law. Enter into the very truth of being and observe the divine law, understanding that our Father is always there and that we are only in a far country when we forget his presence. He constantly gives us exactly what we recognize and accept according to his law. We can take our inheritance and divorce ourselves in consciousness from the Father, but we will suffer the consequences because then we will not be doing things according to divine wisdom and divine order, and there will be famine in this land. Let us seek more the divine wisdom to know how to manage our substance, and the law of prosperity will be revealed to us. To achieve this realization, declare with faith and certainty that the Spirit that provides for all is my speech, and I am sure of my prosperity. Primitive men did not dispute the products of nature as long as they could easily pick the fruits of the trees and sleep under the branches. When they began living in caves, the struggle for the best places emerged, and the strongest were often the winners. Success leads to success. Those who could take the best did so and experienced the law that to him who has, it will be given, and he will have in abundance. At first glance, this may seem like an unjust law, but it has always prevailed in the affairs of the world. Jesus, the greatest of metaphysicians, taught it as a divine law and praised it. It could not have been otherwise, for it is a just law that man should have what he earns, that industry, effort, and ability should be rewarded, and laziness discouraged. This law operates in all areas of being. Those who seek the things offered by the material realm tend to find them. Those who strive to attain moral excellence generally tend to achieve that goal. Those who aspire to spiritual rewards are also rewarded. The law is that we get what we want and work for, and all experience and history have shown that this is a good law. If it were removed, the progress of the world would cease and the race would die out. Where there is reward, there will be effort, and society will degrade without it. We may speak wisely of the inner impulse, but when it has no external field of action, it eventually becomes discouraged and stops acting. When men evolve spiritually to a certain degree, they open inner faculties that connect them to the cosmic spirit and achieve results that are sometimes so astonishing that they seem miraculous. What seems miraculous is the action of the force on planes of consciousness that were previously misunderstood. When a man releases the powers of his soul, he performs wonders in the eyes of materialistic spirit. But he has not deviated from the law. He is simply functioning in a consciousness that has been sporadically manifested by great men throughout the ages. Man is greater than all other creations of God's Spirit because he has the capacity to perceive and realize the ideas inherent in God's Spirit, and through faith, bring them to manifestation. Thus, evolution occurs when man takes hold of primary spiritual ideas and expresses them in his consciousness and through it in the exercise of his identity. Man needs to develop certain stabilizing ideas, one of which is continuity or faithfulness to the truth in both the Scriptures and life. We have many examples of how love adheres to what it is fixed on. Nothing stabilizes and unifies all other faculties of the mind like love does, which is why Jesus gave the greatest commandment to love God. When you begin to think of God as a substance present everywhere, your mind will not continually cling to this idea. After a while, you will stop paying attention, and then you will think that you do not have enough to pay all our bills. There you have paused and lost momentum in your approach, and you must resolve it quickly. Affirm that I will not be swayed. Old ideas are false and mean nothing. They have no power over me. I will attach myself to this proposition. God is love, the substance of my provision. Ruth, the woman from Moab, became so spiritually united with Naomi that she decided not to abandon her but to accompany her back to Palestine. She was loyal and firm through love. The result of her faithfulness was that she first became a reaper, then the wife of a very rich man, and she was immortalized as one of David's ancestors. This lesson of staying true to our highest ideals is something we must understand. Nothing is more important than remaining faithful to the ideal and never abandoning the work we have set for ourselves. Affirm the law constantly and be loyal to it. Then you will succeed in its demonstration. Without a doubt, you will discover that there is a spiritual law that makes the thoughts we focus on manifest. It is a universal divine law of mental activity that is infallible. Perhaps an adverse condition of your own thinking has prevented a complete demonstration. Do not let that sway you from your loyalty to the law. The results may seem to come slowly, but that is the best reason to stay true to your ideal and not change your mind. Be loyal at the start so that the adverse condition will break, then the true light will come, and the invisible substance you have faithfully affirmed will be revealed to you in all its fullness of good. Jesus emphasized the idea that God has made abundant provision for all his children, even for the birds of the sky and the lilies of the field. The Lord has clothed you with the substance of the soul, with as much glory as Solomon. But you must have faith in this substance of good that provides for everything, and through your continuous imagination, shape it to create the things you desire. If you persist in working this idea in your conscious mind, it will eventually sink into your subconscious mind and continue to work there, where things take form and manifest the invisible substance. When your subconscious mind is filled to the point of overflowing, it will sum up in all areas of your life. You will become more prosperous and successful in such a gradual, simple, and natural way that you will not realize that it comes from a divine source in response to your prayers. However, we must realize that everything we sow in the subconscious soil will eventually produce according to its nature. We must exercise the greatest caution not to think or speak of insufficiency, nor allow others to do so. What we sow in the mind, we will reap in manifestation. Some of our well-meaning friends tend to load us with ideas of hard times, thus scattering the prosperity substance we have accumulated. Even an adverse thought can make it slip away. Therefore, we must go back and repair the broken deposit of thought substance. We must retain it in our mind in its fullness and not release it, not even for a minute, for fear that the work of demonstration will be delayed. When you retire at night, your last thought should be on the abundance of spiritual substance, visualizing it filling the entire house and the minds of all the people in the house. This powerful thought will then sink into your subconscious and continue to work whether you are asleep or awake. The law of supply is a divine law, meaning it is a law of the Spirit and must work through it. God does not go to the supermarket to bring food to your table, but when you continue to think of God as your true provision, everything in your mind begins to awaken and connect with the divine substance. By shaping it in your consciousness, the ideas that will connect you to visible manifestation begin to come to you. First, you receive the ideas directly from their divine source, then you begin to manifest them outwardly. It is an exact, scientific, and infallible law. First the leaf, then the ear, and then the whole grain in the ear. When you work in harmony with this universal law, everything you need is abundantly provided. Your part is simply to follow the law, which means keeping your mind full of mental substance, storing spiritual substance until the mind is full and cannot help but manifest in your affairs, obeying the law. To him who has, more will be given, but you are not following the law if you allow thoughts of poverty to inhabit your mind, for they attract other similar thoughts, and your consciousness will have no space for the truth that prosperity is for you. Poverty or prosperity, it all depends on you. Everything the Father has is yours, but you are solely responsible for the relationship of the Father's good with your life. By consciously recognizing your unity with the Father and His wealth, you attract the living substance, the visible supply. Do not hesitate to think that prosperity is for you and do not feel unworthy. Banish any thought of being a martyr of poverty. No one enjoys poverty. But some people seem to appreciate the sympathy and compassion they can evoke because of this, exceeding any inclination in that direction and any belief that you are destined to be poor. No one is desperate as long as they resign themselves to their imaginary fate. Think of prosperity, speak of it, not in general terms, but specifically. Do not consider it as something for others, but as a personal right, and deny any appearance of failure. Stand firm in supply, support, and success, even amid doubt. Then thank for the abundance in all your areas, knowing with certainty that your good is now being realized in spirit, thought, and manifestation. A prosperity treatment based on Psalm 23 might be, "The Lord is my banker, my credit is good. He makes me lie down in the consciousness of omnipresent abundance. He gives me the key to His vault and restores my faith in His riches. He guides me on the paths of prosperity. Even if I find myself in the darkness of debt, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your money and gold secure me. You prepare the way before the tax collector. You fill my purse with abundance, and my measure overflows. Surely goodness and abundance will follow me all the days of my life, and I will do business in the name of the Lord forever." The law governs the manifestation of supply, and it is certain that all men strive to follow the law of their being. But few have understood the law. The law is one of the most important things we can study, for only by understanding it can we respond to its demands and demonstrate our divine possibilities through it. As we read the Scriptures, we gradually realize that they are not merely stories, and we begin to learn them as if they expose the principle or law of life. We discover that the great biblical figures fit into the pattern of our own consciousness, where they represent ideas. This makes the Bible a book of divine life, not simply the history of a people. The idea of this law is symbolized by Moses in our individual consciousness. It is the negation, the negative side of the law that precedes its affirmative expression. Moses gave the law in the form of, "Thou shalt not." Jesus represents the law in its affirmative expression, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God." Moses could not enter the promised land, the four-dimensional state of consciousness, for there can be no negation there. Joshua, whose name has the same meaning as Jesus, entered the promised land and paved the way for the children of Israel. He represents the first step of the Spirit toward this full consciousness of God's omnipresence and omnipotence, which was attained in Jesus. Moses was the legislator, and Jesus was, according to his own words, the fulfillment of the law. We must begin to see this four-dimensional world within us, with its innate capacity for all things. Everything is here. Everything that has ever been or could be simply waits to be manifested. The Lord has prepared a great feast and invited us all. As Jesus explained in a parable, we have here, within us and around us, this substance ready to be appropriated or consumed. Eating is the external symbol of mental appropriation. We begin to share the bread, sharing the substance of the Spirit abundantly provided on all sides. We have discovered that there is a vital force within us that can be accelerated, an increased activity through thought. Everyone has demonstrated at some point that they can overcome the negative condition of weakness by maintaining the thought of strength. Sometimes, strength follows immediately after thought, and sometimes the thought must be persistently maintained for days or weeks. In demonstrating the law of the ever-present abundance, we must expect the same results. If the demonstration seems slow, patience and persistence will prevail. This may be because the consciousness of poverty has a tenacious hold and requires effort to remove. There is a law that governs the manifestation of supply, and we can learn this law and apply it through mental determination and faith in the logical consequences of spiritual realities. We have thought that God's laws were mysterious and sacred, far removed from the common man, and that it was better to first try to learn the laws of nutrition, medicine, and 1,000 other secondary things. A strict metaphysician considers all these temporary laws as secondary to the one law of God. We are told that this one law must be written in our hearts, inside us. Therefore, there is something within us that naturally responds to God's law. If we accept this as true, that we know the one law through an inner intelligence, and that all other laws are subordinate to it, we will be able to achieve results and demonstrate prosperity in the natural world around us. We see that everything is governed by the law, and it is said that all the animal kingdom follows instinct. Many theories have been put forward to explain instinct in terms of material thought. Some philosophers have claimed that it is something passed down from generation to generation and incorporated into the germ cells. Whether that is true or not, everything suggests that there is a law inside or around the cells that controls their formation and reproduces the pattern established years ago by Mother Eve and Father Adam. This is the law written within us, which is not a mere expression, but a recognized fact. We must seek the law within, not without. The laws we find outside are always secondary laws. The infinite, creative spirit has given each of us a key for the operation of this infallible inner law. It consists of understanding that everything we touch mentally or physically represents substance and is only limited by ourselves in our capacity for thought. We cannot ask God for more substance because the universe is full of it. But we can and must ask for the understanding to seize it with our mind, that is, to increase our capacity for thought. Behind the substance is the idea of the substance, and man is linked to the causal side of this idea through his unity with God. Perhaps you think you could live better and do more good if you had a lot of money. Things would not go better for you if you had $1 million, unless you also had the understanding to use it for your good and the good of others. Would you give $1 million to a child to buy candy and ice cream, unless you also had the understanding to use it for your own good and that of others? We must evolve with our possessions until we acquire the ability to manage them. Then the law is fulfilled, for supply unfolds at the same rate as the need or ability to use the substance develops. Let us become aware of this law of the unfolding of substance and commit to realizing it within ourselves by developing our understanding and appreciation for it. Let us ask each day for as much as we need or can manage. "Give us this day our daily bread" is a prayer that aligns with the divine law and answers it itself. The infinite spirit has a legitimate way of providing for all the needs of its children. Nothing is left to chance. God feeds the birds of the air and clothes the lilies of the field. And he will feed and clothe us unless we make it impossible through our refusal to accept his generosity. Paul said that the fulfillment of the law is love, and this is exactly what we must do. Love the Lord, love our neighbor as ourselves, and love our work. The law is within us, in our hearts. We know what we must do, and we do not need to pray or beg God to give us anything. All we need to do is meditate silently, affirm the presence and power of the great giver of all, and then accept the gifts. Being faithful to the law would mean ceasing to look outside and beginning to look inside to find provisions. Looking inside means focusing the mind on God as the ever-present Spirit, which is also substance and power within us. Within each of us there is a wealth of thoughts. These thoughts are imprisoned in the subconscious, waiting to be released to work for us. They await the arrival of the Son of God, who frees the prisoners and releases the captives. This Son is now seeking to express himself in you. It is yourself. Release your rich thoughts, release your innate powers, and take from the rich substance of the Father what you desire through faith in the conquering power of Jesus Christ. The sensory mind will be overcome, and the spiritual mind will come under the control of your life and affairs. The sensory mind is filled with lack and limitation, while the spiritual mind knows only unlimited abundance. You are connected to the universal spiritual mind through the Christ mind. It is through him that all things come to you, the channel to the total Spirit of the Father. Unite with the fullness of the Spirit of Christ, affirming that you are one with the Master, one with the substance that provides all, and that your prosperity overflows as you begin this process of conscious fusion with the inner life, and the substance will begin to pour out of you and overflow into your affairs so that you will prosper. Stay faithful to this inner life, regardless of outer appearances, and you will not be able to avoid the good things of life manifesting. All manifested substance comes from a realm of light waves, according to the discoveries of modern physical science. James says, "Every good and perfect gift comes from above, from the Father of lights." This is an accurate statement of a scientific law, even using the plural form of the word lights, because, as science asserts, one or more light particles, electrons, form the atom that is the basis of all material manifestation. Therefore, God's ideas are the source of all that appears. Accept this as an absolute truth, a truth that produces and connects everything. Consciously connect your mind with the mind of the Father, and then you will begin to realize an inexhaustible prosperity that comes from your own being. The German philosopher and poet Goethe says, "The highest and best in man has no form, and we must avoid giving it a form that is not noble." This is a recognition of the truth that man has within himself the ability to give form to substance. Jesus expressed the law when he said, "Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." This heaven is the realm of pure ideas in the mind. We constantly incorporate these ideas into our minds and give them form according to our loyalty to the truth. For every metaphysician, this is a very important and delicate process because this is how we develop our soul. This development of the soul is often compared to the development of a photographic plate. Light first imprints the image on the sensitive plate, or as James says, it is a gift from the Father of lights. There is therefore an image on the plate, but it is invisible and does not manifest until it goes through a process of revelation. The infinite Spirit has imagined all its attributes in the soul of every man, but man must develop this image into a clear photograph. Much of this work must be done in the darkness, with perfect faith in the law of manifestation. The photographer works in the darkroom, subjecting the plate to many processes. Sometimes, the developer may make a mistake in one of the operations, and the plate will come out with an imperfect image. In the same way, human manifestation sometimes appears distorted. However, the perfect image of perfection, imprinted by the creative Spirit, is always there. This perfect image is the Christ within us, the hope of glory. Our body and affairs are the first trials of the image's development, but in our mind float higher ideas, the true image to be developed. Our mind is engaged more or less in a chemical process. It is not difficult to find a demarcation between physical chemistry and mental chemistry, as they follow the same law. However, the imagination can be brought to light with the appropriate development method. Everything you imagine doing, you can achieve. In our human understanding, we have separated this imaginative power from the executive power. Now, let us unite them and unify them, for when imagination and will work together, all is possible for man. The will is symbolized in the Scriptures by the king. King Solomon was probably the richest man in the world, and in regard to the world, he was highly successful. He demonstrated his prosperity and did not ask God for wealth. Let us pay attention to this. He asked God for wisdom and ideas. God is spirit, and his gifts are not material but spiritual. They are not things, but ideas. Solomon asked and received the ideas, then developed them himself. Being wise, everyone came to his court seeking wisdom, and they brought him wealth in return. The king of Tyre brought him the materials he needed to build the temple. The queen of Sheba brought him large amounts of gold. From this, we must learn to ask God for ideas rich in substance and then put them into practice in our business. Do not hesitate to use the divine ideas that come to your mind, but also do not forget their source or foundation. Many people are highly effective executives, but often they do not get very far because they forget the foundation upon which these ideas rest and from which to begin building. With a foundation of truth, ideas, and spiritual substance, we can build a lasting structure of prosperity. It will not rest on a false premise and will stand when the rains come, when floods arise, and when the winds blow and beat against it. We do not want prosperity today and poverty tomorrow. We want to seek the constant realization of abundance every day. Jesus understood and used this law of forming substance informed by the power of imagination and will. When the woman touched the hem of his garment, part of this substance, of which he was fully aware, surged from him and healed her instantly. He commented that someone had touched him, even though many had touched him among the crowd, and from those contacts no substance had surged from his body. But the woman of faith was open to receiving the healing substance and consciously claimed it. This demonstrated her faith, and Jesus told her to take heart, for her faith had healed her. The same substance was available to the others pressing against him, but only those who recognized it and made use of it received it. In the same way, you and I will receive no benefit, even if the substance is all around us and within us, unless we recognize its presence by faith and seize it by the hem of his garment. Jesus recognized the omnipresence of substance when he used it to multiply the loaves and fishes. He was aware of it at all times. He even told the apostles, when they asked for food, "I have food that you do not know about." He incorporated this divine substance into his body, cell by cell, replacing mortal flesh with spiritual substance until his entire body was immortalized. He demonstrated this and told us how to do it. He said, "Whoever believes in me and the works that I do, he will do also, and greater works than these will he do." So, why are there so many poor, anxious, sick, or afflicted people? There is a path, a law, and wisdom to apply the law, and an abundance of substance waiting to be formed by each of us into what we desire when we apply this law. As a child of God, there is an inherent faculty that instinctively clings to what it calls its own. Even small children love to have their own toys and keep them separate from those of other children. There is nothing wrong with this, for it is the natural result of a divine law. It shows that we know, deep within ourselves, that we have been provided for since the foundation of the world and that we are entitled to our own portion without questioning it. The power of the Spirit to bring us what we have a divine right to is a power that can be cultivated and should be. We are now on the threshold of a new mental state in financial matters. Let us put an end to the false idea that men must be poor to be righteous. Money is the servant of man, not his master. Money was made for man, not man for money. Only those who place money above man and give it power in their minds by worshipping it are the rich Jesus referred to in his story about the camel and the needle. It is not money that controls men, but the ideas they have about money. The ideas of poverty are as powerful to enslave men as are the ideas of wealth. Every man must be taught to handle ideas more than money, so that they serve him and have no power over him. Some physical scientists tell us that the time is approaching when men will make everything they need or desire from the ether at their disposal. Man will not have to wait for the time of planting and harvesting when he learns to use the power of his mind. When we have this awareness where our ideas are tangible, all our requests will be quickly satisfied by the higher law. Project your ideas, all the life and power of your focused thought, and they will be clothed with reality. When Jesus went into the wilderness with his mental powers still inexperienced, he was tempted to turn stones into bread. We have all had this temptation, and most of us have succumbed to it. We get our bread from material things rather than from the words that come from the mouth of God. It is the word, the idea, that nourishes the soul of man. This is accepted, but we must realize that it is also the word, the idea, that nourishes the body and affairs of man. For unless the word is recognized and appropriated, the real substance is lacking, and there is no satisfaction in food. Fortunately, the Father knows that we need all these things, and in his compassion and mercy, he nourishes us with substance even when we are still trying to digest stones. If we seek first the kingdom of God, the substance, things will be added, and we will consciously enjoy the fullness of life, the abundant life of Jesus Christ. There is a universal law of increase that is not limited to bank accounts, but operates on all planes of manifestation. Conscious cooperation from man is necessary to obtain the best results in applying this law. You must use your talents, whatever they may be, to increase them. Have faith in the law, do not overthink, move forward boldly and with faith. If you allow yourself to think of any person or external condition as an obstacle to your increase, it becomes an obstacle for you because you have applied the law of increase to it. The fear of this can make you timid and bury your talent, thus nullifying the law. Keep your eyes on the abundant inner reality, and do not let external appearances make you hesitate. Do not scrutinize yourself too much or your current condition, as this will only prolong your stay and slow your progress. A child loses sight of everything except their growth, as they see themselves as a bigger child, even as a man. It is the childlike spirit that finds the kingdom. So look at the perfect man you are to be in spirit, and behold yourself as the beloved Son in whom the Father is well pleased. God gives the increase, the Scripture tells us. This must be reminded because often we think that increase is the result of our personal efforts. Increase comes through the operation of a universal law, and our role is to respect this law, to use the talent of life, and to expand magnificently. Do this by speaking of life, praising it, and thanking God for it. Act as if you are alive, and you will rejoice in being alive, obtaining a new realization of life, an increase of life itself. Never allow yourself to be under the control of man by the words, "I can't." Believe in your limits, wrap your talents in them, and do not bury them in the negative soil. Be positive in spirit, and you will triumph. All the negative talents buried in the depths of material thought can be resurrected by the Spirit and made positive by putting them to proper use, so that they contribute to the increase of your well-being. Appetite and passion, which are diminishing and destructive on the material plane, can become growing and constructive when directed toward the things of the Spirit. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. If there is an apparent lack in the world of men, it is because the requirements of the law of manifestation have not been fulfilled. This law rests on the Spirit and its operation through thoughts and words. The key to the operation of the Spirit is symbolically presented in the Genesis account of the 6 days of creation. The spirit of man goes through the same stages when bringing an idea to manifestation. Between the perception of an idea and its manifestation, there are 6 defined and positive movements, followed by a 7th day of rest. Then the spirit relaxes and observes its work as it nears completion, producing a manifestation of God's abundant provision. It takes the first step by saying, "Let there be light," meaning there should be understanding. You must have a clear perception of the principle behind the statement, "God will provide." You must discern and trust in the only universal and eternal substance of God, which is the source of all, while eliminating from thought the dependence on material things. If you depend only on money, you will worship a false god and will not have discerned the light. First, you must enter into the understanding that God, omnipresent, omnipotent and omniscient, is the true source, and you can turn to it without limits. If you have established this light, you have begun your demonstration and can proceed to the 2nd step. You must establish a firmament, that is, a solid place in the mind, a division between the true and the apparent. This is done by affirmation, affirming God as your supply and support. Your words will eventually become substance for you, the substance of faith. The 3rd step is the transformation of this intangible substance so that it appears in your mind as the dry land of the omnipresent substance. Shape it according to what the power of imagination desires. If what you need is food, visualize yourself generously supplied with food. If you have already gone through the other steps, you can imagine in your mind the things you desire and bring them into your manifested world. If there has been no manifestation, it means that the other steps of understanding and faith have not been fulfilled, because above all, the creative law is ordered and works through progressive steps. Many people have tried to manifest by visualizing and focusing, but have failed because they put the 3rd step first. They have not developed understanding and faith. If you work according to the law and adjust to its orderly function, as the degrees of creation unfold, you cannot fail. For when you have accomplished the law, you will have found the kingdom. Jesus recognized that order is a fundamental factor in the law of increase. When he fed the crowd, he had them sit in groups. If you carefully study the account, you will see that there was great preparation before the demonstration. There was a recognition of the ideas of seeds, loaves, and fishes brought by the child. There was a prayer of thanks for this provision, and then it was blessed. All of this preceded the actual appearance and appropriation of the provision. Every manifestation rests on the same law of increase and goes through the same ordered steps. You can pray whenever you like, but let your prayer be affirmative, for it is the prayer of faith. A prayer of supplication full of doubt is a prayer of doubt. Keep praying until the affirmations become a mental habit. The racial thought of lack must be so permeated and charged with the truth of God's omnipresent abundance that all consciousness of lack and poverty disappears from the surface of the earth. The more we trust in the simplicity and infallibility of the law, the better our individual demonstration will be, and the more we will contribute to the transformation of the racial thought that causes scarcity and hunger. Those who make the greatest spiritual demonstrations are not the wise of the world, but the obedient sons of the law in the bosom of infinite love. Consider that what you need has already been manifested, and now it is yours. Do not put it off to an uncertain future. God wants you to have it now. So always remember the omnipresence of God, and if doubts arise, do not nourish them. Instead say, I trust in omnipotence and refuse to be anxious about tomorrow or even the next minute. I know that God provides for the fulfillment of His divine idea, and I am that divine idea. This divine idea is the Son, the perfect man, the Christ begotten on the sixth day. If you want to receive your inheritance, do not neglect this realization of the sixth day. God expresses Himself as man and works through man to give expression to perfection. Abandon all anxiety and trust in the Lord does not mean sitting idly by. My Father works still, and I work too. We must work as God works and work with God, just as a son follows his father's occupation. We must give form to what God has created. In the first chapter of Genesis, we can see how the Father works. The different stages of His method are clearly outlined, and we will only get results if we faithfully follow it. Some people think that prosperity is something separate from their spiritual experience, outside the bounds of religion. They live in two worlds, one for 6 days of the week when man is in charge of things, and the other on the seventh day when God has the opportunity to show what He can do. This is the demonstration of personality. When people complain about hard times and repression, this is not the way to show God in all His fullness. Do all things for the glory of God 7 days a week instead of just one. Bring God into all your engagements. Use this thought in silence and introduce God and His law of prosperity into your business. I trust in His universal law of prosperity so that it manifests in all my endeavors.